5 years ago, the NBA much different. Most of today's aging superstars in their 30s with different teams, with the exception to Steph Curry and Dame Lillard. LeBron James finishing up his second stint in Cleveland at the height of his offensive powers. James Harden and CP3's 65-win season with Houston. Durant's second year with Golden State. Joel Embiid's first full season after missing first two with injury. 23-year-old Giannis flourishing as a superstar in front of our eyes. Kawhi Leonard's last season with San Antonio. An ugly one to remember, the Atlanta Hawks, Orlando Magic, and Phoenix Suns, worst of the worst, laughing stocks of the league, while the grit and grind Grizz hit the reset button. 30-year-old Russell Westbrook, second year averaging a triple-double, forming the big three of PG and Melo, only to fail. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Put yourself back to late 2017. Lots of young players had the potential to be the next face of the NBA. Everybody asking who's gonna take over after the LeBrons and Currys of the world. Right now, most would think of Giannis unanimously, who's proving himself as today's best, but some of the promising names absolutely disappointing and underperforming on all levels. An absolute travesty to say the least. Now, let's examine the 4 players who were supposed to be in the best player conversation at this time, given their youth and upside, only to not even be considered top 10 right now. Starting with Karl-Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves, who should be in his prime. 27 years old, already his 8th season, one of the most frustrating stars to watch, especially if you're a Wolves fan. All the offensive talent in the world, but the constant dumb plays, cringy attitude, trying to act cool, leads to many questionable worries, from being the #1 pick the 2015 class to now only a 3-time All-Star. First 7 seasons, continues to put up great numbers, but it's an absolute travesty. Towns never even gotten past the first round yet, made the postseason just twice, 11 total playoff games, absolutely horrendous in both matchups. The near consensus #1 pick, a fantastic rookie season of putting up over 18 and 10, 1.7 blocks, one of 8 rookies to put up those numbers, joining David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Alonzo Mourning, Elton Brand, and Ralph Sampson. As a 20-year-old, a 29-win team looked upon as the franchise superstar heading into 2017. Nearly half the GM survey picked Cat as the next star to build around, over the 28-year-old Durant and the 31-year-old LeBron, with all-time great Kevin Garnett finishing his career with the Wolves just in time for Towns' rookie season. Seemed like a match made in heaven. The two practiced together, with the NBA changing due to an increase of 3-point shooting. Towns the perfect big man, his ability to make the threes, handle, and possibly defend at every position, having young teammates Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, Ricky Rubio under defensive masterful coach Tom Thibodeau. Finishing year 2, averages over 25 and 12 on 54% shooting, despite winning just 31 games. The excuse was, oh, the team was young, but after the huge Jimmy Butler trade, a perfect opportunity for Towns to contend in just his 3rd season. At first, Butler's numbers weren't eye-popping with Minnesota, off to a poor start, but excelled after Jimmy took control of the offense. A player ready to win now. 22-year-old Towns' number dropped to just 21 and 12, but shot over 42 from deep. It became evident Butler was the best player on the team, but had a meniscus tear forced him out nearly 2 months. The team defense totally collapsed without Jimmy. A record 36 and 25 when Butler got hurt, only to nearly fall out the playoff spot. Jimmy came back the last 2 regular season games, beat the Nuggets in OT to finally get the 8th spot, only for Cat to get outplayed by Clint Capella. 8 and 5 points, 3 of 9 followed by 2 of 9 the first 2 games, an absolute disaster. Looked scared out there, moments seemed too bright for him. First time Cat received heavy backlash, some blame Thibodeau's coaching style for not giving him the ball, averages of just 15 and 13, more turnovers than assists. In a series they were massive underdogs. Butler had enough and had that infamous practice October 10, said Cat couldn't win without him, demanded out. Towns labeled soft and mentally weak, took himself out the game after airballing a 3. Everything got to his head. Butler's polarizing personality likely ruined Cat's confidence, shown no real challenge, looked more excited to play Fortnite than basketball at times, and Derrick Rose looked like the best player here and there on the team and most stable. Towns year 4, good numbers but 36 wins, coaching changed to Ryan Saunders, dealt with tragedy. The COVID year, limited to 35 games, played 50 of 72 games in 2021, viewed as an afterthought big man, 3 straight years of not making All-NBA, bad roster. Saunders replaced for Chris Finch, recovered fully for 2022. The addition of vocal Pat Beverly and the hot D'Angelo Russell and second-year Ann Edwards helped the team to 46 wins, received the most praise of his career, only to play like an absolute travesty with Memphis, a very beatable team, an abysmal 8-point Game 3, foul trouble, mic'd up, came back to his house, but forgot the keys.
Alright, cool, we gotta come back to our house now. I only seen him at their house.
Plays too passive for a 7-footer, claiming he's the best 7-foot big man jump shooter all time, more fouls than field goal attempts, blew a 25-point lead, responded at the press conference, go home and drink some wine, move on to the next day.
As a leader on this team, how do you go about just trying to maybe pick guys up or pick the collective mood of the team up?
Go home, drink some wine, move on to the next day. I mean, that's really simple, you know, just decompress.
When asked what he could do as a leader, rubbed many the wrong way. Decompress was his answer, not like he'll get drunk since he failed to take more than 4 shots. Did bounce back with a 33-14 Game 4, but foul trouble Game 5, struggled 6 of 19 Game 6, a 3-8 postseason record. Team went all out on the Gobert trade, looking like a mess, slow start, called out teammate Ann Edwards on Popeyes when a great leader would have addressed the issue privately, saying he's one of the best offensive players and talents the league has ever seen. Some players don't need to make statements like that if they know they're already great, and yet that talent led to 0 playoff series wins his first 7 seasons when other superstars after him already accomplished more in less time, caring more about his stats and being a 3-point shooting king than winning, unwilling to compete after his team struggles when needing him to step up, constantly still picks up those ticky-tack fouls. At least he's better on D than his younger years, but just average in that department. Has some quickness, but clumsy at times, trying too hard to be good on D, to getting into foul trouble, freezes every time when double teamed. Looking at how Jimmy Butler leads his team since leaving Minnesota, and Towns just winning 2 playoff games since. Unlike the Jokic and Lukas of the world, both super composed and relaxed in the big moments. And Towns saying, next question.
Why was it so hard for you to get involved?
After things gets tough, won't be shocking if Minnesota moves on from Cat and the franchise would give the keys to Anthony Edwards, given the underachieving years still bashed for maturity issues. Anthony Davis, an absolute travesty of a disappointment after 2 straight missed postseasons, having a 34-48 record to finish 2017. Small market franchise, the 4-time All-Star came off averages of 28 a game, 12 rebounds, over 2 blocks, an athletic specimen, still better than Giannis, first team All-NBA, 52 in the All-Star game from 2017 to 2020, a 4-year peak of over 27 points, 11 boards, 2.5 blocks, 1.5 steals to his 2 seasons after the bubble, under 9 boards and 2 blocks, missed more than half his games, ranked the 6th best player according to ESPN's top 100 before the 2017-18 campaign. The fact that AD peaked from then on up until the bubble, regressed due to injuries right after, staggering. Many, including myself, would have picked AD as the best player in the game, starting in the early 2020s, looking like a future MVP and multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year winner. The league was supposed to be his, but the lack of hunger, combined with the fragile body, nicknamed as the Glass Davis, arguably a top 5 player in 2018, back to the postseason, finished 3rd for MVP in the discussion for even the 2nd best player behind LeBron. A solid playoff run, but after signing with Clutch Sports, only a matter of time demanding out of New Orleans, went from super quiet to hated overnight. Dems held him till after the 2019 season on a trade, and immediate impact, dominated with LeBron, incredible in the bubble, winning a title at age 27, ranked number 2 on ESPN's list, was even considered better than Giannis after the bubble, but became a shell of himself after controversially named to top 75, already a little banged up in the Heat series. 2-month break after winning, nicknamed Street Clothes, tried to play Game 6 versus Phoenix, but literally too painful, sent out the game, continues to jump recklessly and land on the floor, being 6'10", clumsy, no body control, literally no balance on his lower body, doesn't hit the weight room as hard as guys like Giannis. After dominating Jokic in the bubble, a potential next 5-year rivalry, one has won all the MVPs, the other looks like he's aged 10 years, from being one of the most hyped prospects 100% post LeBron on Team USA before even playing a single NBA game, from some Laker fans daring to put his name comparing him to Tim Duncan. How dare they? After Pelinka blew up the pieces, without defensive KCP and Caruso, AD has to cover for everybody's flaws on D, which left him exposed, especially not being healthy. Flourishes best when he gets lobs from guards like Rondo, just like the 2018 playoffs versus Portland or the bubble. The extra spacing helps New Orleans, having Mirotic, Holiday, and Eric Gordon. While this current Laker team, no outside shooting, the lineup simply not suited well for AD. Easily the most frustrating superstar talent in the league, most disappointing last 2 years. LeBron turning 38, still the face of the team. Davis not a leader. Perhaps if it wasn't for the 4-month pandemic delay and going straight to the playoffs, some reasonably would believe Davis wouldn't hold up for the playoffs, and nearly got ruined in the finals, from the bubble title to averaging his lowest points per game since year 2, the lowest rebounds of his career, also the lowest blocks of his career, when some believe he might go down as the best shot blocker the game has ever seen. If you watched him in college, you know. A combination of injuries, the lack of motor led to his downfall. The talent's there. Russ Westbrook got most of the blame. AD bullied for not shooting a basketball in months, clearly doesn't have superstar level work ethic. Looking at his approach after winning a ring, got lazy, lost motivation, while Giannis hungry for more and just annihilating everybody that stands his way. Sadly, LeBron might never pass the torch to AD. Turns 30 in March of 2023. His outside jumper no longer deadly, doesn't like to play the 5 and bang with the big boys. The past injuries looking to have an emotional effect on him. Every Laker fans hold their breath at least twice a game and pray Davis not severely hurt every time he falls. Really sad to say, a few years from now, Anthony Davis might age like Blake Griffin, another top tier superstar before his injuries. Won't be shocking if the Lakers in fact do trade Davis soon and just settle for the bubble title after giving up every future asset. Ben Simmons, Mr. Triple Single, absolute abomination of a travesty. One of the most disliked players, arrogant, seems like he doesn't give a damn about ball or improving. Finesse his way to a max contract, puts in no work, super hyped #1 pick, drawing comparisons to Magic and LeBron. His first 20 NBA games, numbers of over 18.5 points, 9.5 boards, over 7 assists, 2.3 steals. Absolutely a different player back then without all the backlash. Easily won Rookie of the Year, even led his team to a 16-game win streak, dominated his first playoff series, beating Miami in 5 without much help from Embiid. Numbers of over 18 and 10, 9 assists, 2.4 steals, literally looked like the second coming of Magic Johnson, but roasted next series versus Boston where his flaws exposed. 1 point game 2 on 0 of 4 shooting. Even Cow and Coward ridiculously put Ben Simmons #5, ranking his top players drawing 2018, supposed to be putting up numbers of 22, 10, and 10 by now, making first team all defense and crowned as the best point guard. Over 50% of NBA hardcores would have picked Simmons, being the best guard in the NBA 5 years ago after watching his rookie season. Now unplayable, cocky, and taking his talents for granted, refused to take Kobe Bryant's advice, never fix his jump shot. Every new season should be a new opportunity to get better and improve, especially in your 20s. But Simmons having a weak motor, feels entitled, thinking he's better than everybody else because of his talents and early success, being 6'10", having good basketball qualities outside of shooting, didn't care at LSU, basically quit on his team the last 2 months of college. Continued to lose his confidence over time, the opposite attitude of Giannis. While Embiid adjusted and stood outside to allow Simmons for attack, Simmons never sacrificed for Joel, criticized for not making a three-pointer until his 3rd season. Simmons' best basketball moment happened after Jared Dudley called him out, saying he's average on half court, dropped the masterful 31 points, 11 of 13 shooting game 3, proved to be way better than any player on the Nets, but just took 5 shots in game 7 versus Toronto. Still 22 years young, so the future is still bright. Had a back and knee injury, didn't play in the 2020 playoffs, made 3rd team all NBA, defensive first both 20 and 21. Looking back 2 years ago, the possibility of Simmons ever getting a jump shot, it's game over for everybody else. Then with Daryl Morey, the new Sixer GM, the Simmons trade rumors for James Harden started. His offense and scoring hasn't improved one bit since his rookie year, but defensively, second for DPOY, free throw shot under 47%, his flaws ignored due to to having team success, the #1 seed, conference finals or bust, easily beat Washington round 1, but Simmons' pathetic foul shooting 10 of 28 in the series led to a huge concern. Absolutely exposed, being scared to death in the Hawks series, one he might never recover from, disappointing fourth quarter acts, the biggest joke by any all-star type player, 33% from the line, blew huge leads, an absolute collapse of a travesty, act like a clown, didn't want to practice, traded to the Nets where he didn't need to be a #1 or 2 option, gave fans false hope, didn't suit up for the playoffs, looking like the worst contract today, now doesn't even try to attack the rim. Coach Steve Nash eventually got fired, Simmons doesn't even try to be aggressive now, super predictable, wants to get rid of the ball before fully driving to the paint, avoids contact down low, settles for weird looking floaters, first month of the season, 5 points a game, are you fucking kidding me? Now viewed as the biggest joke of the NBA, his early defense not good either, after getting shit on by Zion and Giannis, mocked for being too small, Pascal Siakam gave him a 37-piece, John Morant coked him. If he had the attitude and confidence, Brooklyn with a well-behaved Kyrie and a healthy KD with Ben would contend the next 2-3 seasons, but one of these guys might be gone in a couple months. Having more fouls than baskets made, Mr. Triple Single thought he was too good to listen to others wanting him to get better. His shitty attitude, his own worst enemy, didn't seem like he put in any work after not playing for 19 months, the type of guy who doesn't want to do anything he's not already good at, combined with being afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to say Ben Simmons could be out the NBA after 2025 when his contract ends if he doesn't wake up and face reality. Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn at the height of his career, year 3 after Melo traded, the face of New York, deemed the savior, the first player to be called a true unicorn, nickname given by Kevin Durant, insane skills, a threat from 3, can post up, run the floor, defend the paint like a beast, first 11 games of the 2017-18 season up until November 11th, numbers of 30.4 points, 2.3 blocks, over 51% shooting, making 42% of his 3s, shooting 5 a game, labeled the next Dirk Nowitzki, the rise of big men playing small ball, the hype around Victor Wembanyama now was what many 5 years ago believed Kristaps Porzingis to be, played his very best ball the early parts of the season, wore down as the weeks progressed, durability his biggest concern, the dirty footers and chase down blocks sensational. There used to be a debate between who is better, #1 pick Karl Towns or 4 pick Kristaps Porzingis. Early discussion for the MVP race got his numbers through the flow of the offense, dominated and controlled games, literally looked like a top 10 player for a few week stretch, took a lot of Melo's offensive ISO game. Think Larry marketed his first 2 weeks as a Utah Jazz but on steroids. 5 years ago, if one was to ask 1,000 of the biggest NBA experts, there'd be a European white player who will win back-to-back MVPs in 2021 and 2022, 90% would have said Porzingis. The other 10 would have probably said 17-year-old Luka Doncic. A few already knew about his success. If anybody before 2018 would have told you Jokic from the Nuggets would end up being better than Porzingis, over 95% of NBA fans would have laughed at that ridiculous statement. Had anemia at age 15, a disorder where he easily gets fatigued. His fragile body frame being thin and lanky also led to huge concerns that ruined his career, combined with the New York media giving him extra hype. A debate between KP and Anthony Davis used to be a thing for a few months. Porzingis even made Frank Ntilikina look good. Nobody could have expected KP to only play just 3 seasons with the Knicks, struggled with double teams, regress and fatigue every week that gone by, struggled through minor injuries before the final nail in the coffin, tearing his ACL after dunking on Giannis February 6, 2018. The 22-year-old never the same since, being that tall and lanky. Final game with New York after demanding to be traded before the deadline of next season to Dallas for pennies. Injury prone with Dallas, Rick Carlisle didn't like him, misused KP, stood outside the 3-point line, became a 2010 guy, thought he deserved more looks, but it was Luka's team who was clearly the way better player, inefficient, never got a rhythm going with Doncic, always getting back from injury. Dallas had enough, hard for KP to adjust being a role player with another superstar. While he might have thought he could be the best player on a decent team, balled out the final 20 games of the 2020 season, over 26-10, a beast in the bubble, but a meniscus tear, couldn't play after game 3 versus the Clippers, sidelined him for the rest of the first round series. Look back on track, before the meniscus injury forced him to miss the first 9 games of next season, missed nearly 30 games. His defense heavily declined after surgery on both knees, the mobility gone, much lower, couldn't guard anybody, involved in trade talks, was an absolute disaster the 2021 postseason against the Clippers. Dallas had enough of him, traded him to Washington, has some good games here and there, but just doesn't have the consistency. Although he's still pretty young and should be in his prime, I see KP putting up big numbers, but durability still a huge concern going forward. Instead of being viewed a potential MVP candidate and a top 5 player, Porzingis right now somewhere in the top 45. Honorable mentions includes Andrew Wiggins, who still had a lot of hype, but many realized some of his flaws with Minnesota, bounced back nicely with Golden State winning a title, but unfortunately will never live up to the insane hype he was projected to be during high school. A very good NBA player, but never one of the best or considered a superstar. Thank you so much for watching this video. Which one of these 4 players who's supposed to be in the conversation as best player today, if you look at things 5 years ago, are you most disappointed and shocked by? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe for more content, more good stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.